Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of the Phriends Club Podcast. We are your hosts. My name is Charlotte.
And my name is Fizz.
And today we are going to be discussing and analysing AmazingDan 1.
Yeah, this is gonna be like Dan's version of spin-off, I guess. And we're gonna get into it.
Yeah?
Like let's just get straight into it. So Amazing Dan 1, or just Amazing Dan, was uploaded on 28th May 2010. Charlotte, what were you doing on that day?
I had a quick look on my calendar before recording this, and it was a Friday. So, again, probably would have been in school in year 10, probably in an English class, maths, science, one of them. Not giving a thought to the world about Dan and Phil because I didn't know who they were. What were you doing, Fizz?
So thinking back, May is like beginning of the school year for me, so I had just started year 7 or 7th grade.
Interesting.
And I'm pretty sure I was making my way through the Percy Jackson books. Did not know who Dan and Phil were. No idea.
We were so
Also,
oblivious.
literally, I was on the other side of the world. No idea who they were. And I was also a week away from turning 12 years old, which is hilarious.
Got a little tiny baby.
A few like facts, like just for fun. I didn't notice this until we like started doing this, but Amazing Dan and Phyllis on Fire 2 were uploaded like within a day of each other.
That's insane.
Because we usually I feel like we associate Phyllis on Fire with October, but back then they didn't really know this was going to be a thing, right?
Yeah.
So it
So
makes
I suppose they just recorded whenever they were together and then uploaded it, and then somehow it became a October-November thing only.
I think when they started living together or something, but that's next year. That's ages later. For now, this is at this point they're really really close at this point.
I mean,
Like
this
the
is
last,
it's only like 7 months into them like meeting for the first time, and they've literally hung out like every week almost without fail.
without fail,
Exactly. Even though they live so far apart, like those trains can't have been cheap to like travel between Reading and Manchester all the time, or like meet up in London. So I feel like that's impressive.
for sure, yeah. And like again, like it just shows so much. And yeah, they haven't been apart for longer than a week, or maybe like 1 or 2 weeks. They like, and it's not just us like speculating that, they have said it themselves.
Yes.
If you remember, like when Dan was leaving for tour, they said in the Amazing Phil video, they were like, this is the first time since 2009 that we are going to be apart for more than 2 weeks. And they were like, oh, maybe the last time was like when Phil was in Florida, and Phil goes to Florida a lot with his family.
It just
And
blows my mind. Like that they've gone so long, and the longest they spent apart is 2 weeks. Even like here, where they weren't even living in the same city, that they were still meeting up like every week.
Yeah, at this point they're both still living with their families. Phil hasn't moved out, I think. But yeah, they would hang out in London, in Manchester, like go to each other's places. It's very fun. Good for them. Good for them.
Good for them. So, Amazing Dan. The first big difference is it's called Amazing Dan, and we're filming in Dan's home bedroom at his house.
It's his house, his old room, which is very iconic.
Yeah.
Location.
The origin of Dan is Not on Fire.
Yes.
The first note that I have for this video is, which I think people have commented on since these have been uploaded, was that I'd say that Amazing Dan is like the sexier version of Pin-Off. Would you agree?
Yeah, yeah.
I did write a note that Pin-Off is like if Pin-Off and Amazing Dan were like siblings, Pin-Off is the sibling that like is maybe a bit sort of more sensible, and then Amazing Dan like went a bit off the rails and went a bit crazy.
Yeah. Like I feel like even though even though Amazing Dan doesn't have the sharpy cat whiskers, it's somehow even more like, it's like Amazing Phil's on even more drugs, but not the kind that makes you kind of like crazy, but very like, yeah, like like sexual. Like there's a lot of like there's so many sex jokes. It's kind
100%.
of it's kind of amazing. It's not even, again, it's barely 4.5 minutes.
Yeah.
Um, and they acknowledge it. They're like, one of the questions, I don't know what the question was, but Dan was like, "Are all these questions sexual?" And then that Phil was like, "Yeah, that's what your fans are. They're all sick."
They're just allowed to express themselves on Dan's channel. That's what it is.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. And it's so interesting because I don't think that has changed since. Like, I feel like, yeah, like if you are more of a Dan viewer, you do tend to be like, I don't know, a bit louder about it's just, I think they reflect their majority viewers, but now we're
Yeah,
all
I
machines.
agree.
Whatever.
So let's get into the discussion. Other than that, my only first note was that Dan is glowing. He looks wonderful. His eyes, I think because I sat in front of the window, like, I don't
Uh-huh.
know, the lighting was just really good. And Dan is glowing. As a
Yeah.
Danny, that is
As,
my
yeah, I was about to say, I was like, this is very, this is so surprising coming from someone whose username is Dan How Reels.
in my personal Danny opinion, he looks really
In
good.
my personal opinion. Um, well, as a Philly, I think Phil looked super pale. um,
His eyes
he
look pretty
looked,
nice though.
yeah, yeah, yeah. His eyes look really nice. It's true. Yeah, no, but you're right. He looked like such a baby. Like you can tell, like he's barely like 18,
I
19
I
in
wrote
that
that
video.
exact same thing. Like I forget that Dan is still only 18 in this video, but Phil's obviously 23 because he's had his birthday.
20. Yeah,
Just
yeah, yeah,
mind blowing.
yeah. And like exactly, like that's the thing. Like this is like a tangent, but like they don't know anything
They
that's gonna
don't
come. They're just like silly boys in a
in their
room.
bedroom making videos for fun, making people laugh, and just having a nice time.
Yeah. I have a note here that says Dan would never show us his boxers now. He would have
You
a
say
boundary
that,
committed.
but I don't know. I think I
Okay, I guess not, not if we asked him like in a video. If we were like, "Can you show us your boxers?" He'd be like, "No, you freak." Um, but if it was his own, obviously, like we've seen a lot of Dan at this point.
they're both like metaphorically and also literally. Yeah,
Yes, yes. Yeah. But if it was, yeah, okay, then maybe
maybe we
I'm
would.
wrong.
Let us know. Let us know. Do
Maybe,
you think Dan would show us his boxes if we asked him now? What do you think, guys?
yeah. Tell us, please. Or I thought he would have a crisis about it because he made an entire video on parasocial relationships. But I think that's different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would like to
What else?
know what the decision, what the thinking process behind that was. Like, why did he decide to show his underwear? I mean,
Yeah,
like,
because he described it. Why do we have
yeah,
to
just completely unhinged, absolutely unhinged content on Dan is Not on Fire back in 2010,
back in 2010? Even more than now, if you can believe it.
which is insane when you think about the content we've got from Dan over the past like year.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. What else? What else happens in it?
So there was the question about would you play a gay chicken with Phil? I feel like that there's a whole lot to unpack with that question. Um, Mainly, I think for me, I said that
Mhm.
I just think it's so different seeing how sort of open and like unafraid they were to sort of answer those sort of questions like back
Mhm.
then. And then obviously as like the time went on, they obviously became a lot more like closed off. Obviously, I know Dan's spoken about that and his own experiences with why he became so closed off. But it's just really
Yes.
interesting to see like that they're like, yeah, we'll keep this question in. And
We
then
make jokes about it, but we'll still keep it in. Like, yeah, I think in between they were kind of closed off to like just questions related to them and in that context.
yeah, I suppose there was just so much pressure of them like being watched by all these people, and if they said anything that was sort of like a leading question, they were opening themselves up to like scrutiny, I suppose, and like
Mm.
more questions.
Mm. But at this point, there's nothing of that. Related to that question, my point was my PayPal is amazingphil@gmail.com, which is completely like capital Lester origin story. At least in joint content context, this is the first time we see him kind of being like, okay, 12 billion pounds, you can send that to me and I will play gay chicken with that.
But
And it's
yeah,
just like, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
I
fair
think
enough.
so.
You know what? Totally valid from Phil.
Yeah, yeah.
Such a side note as well. I really liked Phil's cardigan in this video. I thought it was really nice.
Oh, I. It is a really nice cardigan. You're right.
What
Um,
happened to Phil? Where did his cardigan era go? I think he should bring some. I think he should bring the cardigans back.
I think so too. I think I mean, do the people notice that you are also like fan outfits on
I mean,
Twitter?
they do now. If they didn't
They do
before,
now.
I
If
think
you didn't
Phil.
know, yeah,
I think he
in
should
your
bring the
professional
cardigans back.
opinion.
In my professional fan outfits opinion, I think that Phil should bring the cardigans back because I think that was a really nice look. And on the context of clothes as well, Dan
Hmm.
Halvest, my beloved. What a sad day that was when that was retired from the wardrobe.
I know, and he stopped, and he used to wear it like a lot. He had
All
his
the
arms out
time.
all the time
He had his arms out for the lads.
for the lads. Rest in peace, Dan's. That we see it now, but then you'll like as we go with these videos, you'll find that this changes.
Yeah. I just think it's so interesting, like watching this sort of compared to the content we've got to come. They were
Hmm.
just like, you can tell that they didn't have this huge audience and that they didn't have all these people watching them and that they were literally just making this for themselves and for the, I don't know how many subscribers they both had at this time or like followers, but you can just tell that they were just doing this for themselves, for fun, and for the
Yeah.
few people that were going to watch these videos,
That-
and they're just having
yeah.
a laugh.
Yeah. Like they have the kind of awareness that they have fans because they've mentioned it, but it's also kind of like at that point, like in 2010, YouTube Spaces, it wasn't a huge deal. I don't know. Like this wasn't their job. They
Yeah,
were literally just having fun and realizing that oh, people do like this, I guess. And that's about it. One of my notes here is Dan is being a little meaner to Phil than in the first Phil and on Fire. Like he was being mean, but in Amazing Dan, like he has no issues being like I don't know, just
oh,
very
I
very
hadn't picked up on that. Yeah, you're right.
right because he had like he made like Phil's mom's jokes. He made like he was very I wish I put down quotes. I'm sorry I didn't, but that's what I wrote. I was like, he's being a little mean. Like the way you would expect him to be mean now, but with less yelling. But
Yeah,
definitely more than he was on fire.
I feel it's
Um
interesting as well. You can definitely see their sort of how each of them are in like their friendship, and that those the
hmm,
roles that they have pretty much sort of stay the same from here.
the
I know
same.
what you mean with like obviously Dan being a little bit more like playful. He's definitely not like, oh my god, amazing Phil senpai, I love you. Like we can see that that
Yeah,
has diminished a little bit, even though they've only
yeah,
been like hanging out for 7 months. Like you can sort of see that there is a real like deep solid friendship here now between them, and that Dan isn't afraid to push those boundaries a little bit, I suppose, and make those
yeah, yeah.
your mum jokes and say sort of mean quotation mark things to Phil.
Yeah, and like snapping at Phil a little bit here and there. Um, but yeah,
I did wrote that
uh,
like you can tell how much more comfortable Dan is in this video, just
yes,
around Phil, and there doesn't seem to be as much nervous energy, I suppose, as
for
there
sure.
was in Pinoff.
Yeah, Yeah, I think that I feel like that's a huge part. It's also like his own space. He's not in Phil, like
Oh yeah,
amazing Phil's bedroom. He's in his own room. It just he's in his own space, very very comfortable. He definitely you can just see they are best friends.
they are
It's
best
very sweet.
friends, and I
Mm,
think as well, like this is obviously we've said it like so many times already, but like this is only 7 months after that first meeting in October.
mm,
Um,
yeah,
and already like they're so sort of annoying to watch. Do you know what I mean? That sort of the feeling that I get now watching them, and I'm like, you're just so like irritating in like a fond way. Like there's
in a fun
that's sort of coming through already, and it's like this is just very annoying to watch. Like both of them just be so happy and comfortable and make all these stupid jokes.
yeah, like very much like, oh, this is like the best friend club, and you two are the only members.
Yeah,
Like that's
that's the
uh-huh.
exact vibe it
What am
is.
like what am I doing? Then I have why are you putting the mic in your mouth, Dan? Dot 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 dot.
I
Uh
mean,
again like baby gay things.
just baby gay things.
Baby gay things, baby Dan things. It's not changed. Nothing about this has changed. He put Wally in his mouth, he puts a karaoke mic in his mouth.
I'm starting to see like a pattern developing of Dan just putting things in his mouth in videos.
Literally like
I don't know what that
play
means. I'm sure there's some deep like psychological like reasoning behind this. If anyone is a psychologist listening and wants to chip in
please like
with some
yeah,
notes, please do.
please do. You could play like a drinking game, take a shot
Yeah, you
on
could.
that
You could.
as well. Um, just like passes out from too
Literally
much.
instantly. If you watch like all of Dan's videos or any of their like joint content, how many drinks
Hmm,
would it take for you to get drunk if you drank
I
every
don't
time
think
Dan
that
put something
many.
in his mouth?
I don't think it'll be that many.
No, probably not. I mean, we're already only 2 videos in, and we're already on 2 shots already.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay,
I think as
we have.
well, what I liked about this video is they obviously filmed and then kept in bits that maybe they didn't necessarily intend to keep in the video, but there are lots of like jokes. I specifically wrote down the joke about the where they said it was like the Voldemort joke. And I don't know if it was Phil that asked, "Oh, what would you put in like his nose slits or something gross like that?" And Dan was like, "They'd be perfect for rotisserie style chicken." And Phil just like bursts out laughing. And I think it's just such a perfect example of Dan making a joke just to make Phil laugh. Like, I don't think that that was like an audience joke or like a viewer joke. Like, I think
Mhm.
that was just for Phil to try and make Phil laugh, and it worked.
And it did. Like, yeah, yeah, yeah. He like proper. I agree because he wasn't looking at the camera
Yeah.
when he said that. He was looking straight at Phil. Also he got the answer. I feel like this has bothered me for years, apparently. But the question was, what makes you want to be Voldemort? And he says putting kebabs in his like he like that's something he wants
Oh,
to like. I don't know like
I don't
what
pick up
he
on that.
took. I don't know what he thought the question was, but like, you can just do that, babe. You don't need Voldemort no souls to do that. I don't
A
know.
real insight into Dan's mind there.
Yes, very much connected to like Voldemort's pretty fit, to be honest. Like, I think
Again, so many like themes from video to video, which I feel like lots of these early videos were lots of the same
mm,
sort of jokes that they
over
just
and over.
like repeated and like plucked because maybe they saw that like the audience liked it, or they were just like, no, this is funny for us, so we're gonna keep these in.
Yeah, like these are inside jokes that they like um, have stayed with the audience and is constantly referenced. Like I feel like in 2012, something I saw everywhere was like, "What's your favorite Beyonce?" Like that was very funny. It's from this video.
Yeah,
People would constantly quote it at that point as well. Like so again, like very iconic quotes, jokes, things like that. Like Phil's mom. is huge.
I
Or
stand by the fact to this day that the Phil's mum jokes are absolutely hilarious. I'm a huge fan of the Phil's mum jokes, and I want Dan to bring them back in 2023.
I think he should. I don't think anyone would mind if he did.
They're just objectively hilarious because I feel like Phil gets so annoyed by them in like a very fond way.
In a very funny way, and knowing like, obviously at this point, like he's probably met Kath at this point.
I mean, we know
but
he
they're
has
not.
because the Christmas adventure video, obviously Kath and Dan were in that together.
That's true. Okay, but they're not like Dan and Kath now.
No.
But it's very funny. The question was like, what's the last furry thing you touched?
Yeah.
Like Phil's mom. It's such a good joke. Like he's very. Like, listen, everyone. Dan is so funny. I know we like to bully him lightly and call him things, but it is undeniable that he is objectively hilarious.
I mean, you're preaching to the converted here. I know that he's funny.
No. That's what I said. Everyone else, I know you know this, but objectively, he has always been really funny.
He has always been really funny.
Yeah, we should acknowledge and accept that instead of being mean to him about it.
I agree, and I think that we should start this movement of not being mean to Dan anymore because he deserves people to be nice to him.
Hashtag nicer internet.
No, hashtag nicer internet. Oh my god, what a throwback.
If you know.
That's wild.
I completely forgot about it until I just started saying it. I was like, oh my god. That was the thing.
That's the thing. Like, we just have all this knowledge in our head and it just comes out.
And like literally, like if you get it, you get it. And you had like these are things that you just had to be there for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forget like just how much has happened, like especially being in like the fandom space. Like I forget how much little sort of toss away jokes have happened that have just been absorbed into my brain that I'll just suddenly think about, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that thing Dan and Phil did once.
Yeah, exactly, same. Oh, that's the fun of this, and I'm glad we get to like get it out here.
Yeah, this is really, it's a nice cathartic space for us to discuss all these old references and jokes that just happen to come up. Yeah, I think just one of my favourite things about the video is it really does feel like they just decided, oh, let's just sit and ask each other silly questions. And, oh, look, the camera turned on accidentally. I think that's just how I would maybe describe the vibe of this.
Yeah, and it was definitely like, I mean, they did the opposite of Phil asking questions to Dan, and he was the one answering. Like that was like, I think that was the intention, but it was very much like if you and your friends just got like someone's phone out and started filming a random video. Like you didn't, I mean, obviously at this point they are posting videos, but I think even if they weren't, they would have still filmed it and been like, oh, this is funny. We're like content creators and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I agree. My last note for this is just, can we talk about how intense the side fringes were in this video? Like both of their hair is so long.
So long. They're like blocks. They're like Lego blocks on their head.
The side fringe is just extreme. Like it's so, especially on Phil.
Especially on
so extreme.
I don't think Dan. Oh no, Dan does get it pretty long. That's the next. We'll talk about like
the next few videos. Yeah.
But in 2010, not that bad. Phil's was bad, and he was dyeing it as well, and they were straightening that hair to hell.
How they have hair left today is beyond me.
Beyond me too. Like I'm just like, how do you have healthy hair? What's going on? Because honestly speaking, they shouldn't. They should have like very crunchy, bad hair. But
I mean, I've never felt their hair, so it could be crunchy for all we know.
But you can tell. I feel like you can tell. But anyway,
Phil's hair is so soft. Like What shampoo and conditioner does he use?
I have no idea. I think they've mentioned it. I have no idea.
But Phil's hair looks so soft. He must use like a really good hair dye and just look after it really well for it to be so soft and silky.
Right. To be fair, he doesn't bleach his hair. I think that's the.
That's true, yeah.
I think that
But all that heat that they used to put on it with all the straightening, insane.
insane. And like, was it this video, the Hobbit hair question?
Yeah,
Oh, was it? I think I missed it.
yeah, it was this
Okay,
one.
okay, yeah.
Someone asked Dan, would you keep your hobbit hair for more than a day? And he just like screamed no at the camera.
And that's so funny because he did end up keeping it.
Yeah,
Like we don't know what now he's back to like I would never shave my hair. Um,
and I'm team hobbit hair, curly hair, whatever it is. It looks so much better than the awful straightening that he used to do
100%. Like yes,
of the hair and of himself.
and the Hobbit himself. He is not a hobbit. He is gigantic. Um, but his but that's what like he looks much younger with his hobbit hair,
Yes, I agree.
and it's very like yeah, 100% prefer the hobbit.
Makes him look youthful.
Youthful, exactly. And he has like a baby face, so it's hard to make him
He
look.
does have a little baby face. You're
Yeah,
so right.
he has like the babiest face I've ever seen on a 30-year-old man. And back then he was like extra baby.
He was
Yeah.
he was a baby. Just there are so many close-up shots of his face, like to the camera.
Mm-hmm.
I was absolutely thriving. Like, this was a Danny dream to watch this. You could see his eyes.
Even his
You could
freckles.
see how soft his skin was. Oh, absolutely fantastic.
Mm. I'm so happy for you. that you
Thank you so much. Hopefully we get some good Phil content coming up in some of these next videos.
hopefully. um yeah, I think also there was a question about what would you do if you met someone on in real like if you met a fan in real life and he was like I would punch you in the face, and then he backtracked and he was like no I'd give you hugs, and it's very sweet. Like I just have that as notice like that's a very sweet thing for him to say, just to I don't know.
I mean, I suppose that's as well. They were both very like nice, sweet people. They've
Mhm.
always had this very lovely, wholesome persona that they put out there. I say wholesome in
Mhm.
like quotation marks. I know that they don't
Yeah,
make like wholesome stuff, but they've always had this very positive and like welcoming sort of energy, which I suppose is why so many people sort of were drawn to watching their videos because they were just very friendly people.
exactly. Yeah, and I know like I don't think like a creator would seriously be like please don't bother me or anything, but just the fact that like it's also been shown like they are very open, talking for a bit, like chatting for a bit, taking a picture. They're not really um I mean, to be fair, no one I've never seen anyone be like, oh Dan was a real dick to me because I bothered him when he was busy or like
Yeah,
whatever. But so far like everything's been kind of amazing and they've stayed that way, and it's never been like oh I don't want to take a picture,
and
stop being
I
polite.
think that is one of
Yeah.
my like favorite things about them is that they are just nice. I don't think anyone like ever has a bad thing to say about them. Like people that they work with in like a professional capacity, just anyone
It's
really.
always
It's
so
always
positive.
so
Yeah.
positive. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I think you can just tell that they care about other people a lot and they care about obviously coming across as nice people.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose they're both just very aware as well of this is sort of moving on from the video now, but obviously when they hit sort of their high of YouTube fame, I suppose they were just very aware of how big they were and
Mm-hmm.
that they could bump into anyone at a moment's notice. And I love that they just always obviously made that conscious effort to be welcoming and be friendly. And it sounds like such a sort of basic thing to be like, oh wow, Jennifer were nice people. That's crazy. But
That's crazy. But it's also like I agree with that, and it's also just like the way they make. I mean, I've never met them, but the fact that like they make sure everyone around them is comfortable, like, and I think that's a little. it's good, and like obviously you'd expect that, but it's also the image that they have of, oh, we are awkward guys who do awkward things and are often in very weird situations where we react badly. When it comes to viewers and like people they work and all of that, that's kind of avoided, and they're very good about that.
Hmm.
I don't know. Like, good on them, and I'm glad that we are like not standing assholes.
Same. I'm also glad that we're not selling assholes. So,
Sure.
Fizz, that was amazing, Dan. I thought now we could perhaps dive into some of the comments in the comment section of the video, because I did a little brief look through whilst I was watching it. Um, Firstly, a
Sure.
lot of the comments that jumped out to me on that first page were all about Dan and the Hobbit hair, which we have discussed earlier on. But so many of the comments were like, wow, if 2018 Dan could see him now, like, or if 2010 Dan could see 2018 Dan, because obviously he said he'd never have his Hobbit hair. Just so much personal growth in those 8 years. They decided to stop straightening
Yeah.
his hair,
Yeah, and like accept the curls,
except the curls.
and I think he'd be shocked by a lot of things, Dan. But like that's a very significant part because Dan Phil and like Dan himself was so known for the side sweep
Yeah,
hair. They had merch of it. So
exactly.
like,
And the same with Phil as well. Like that was their branding. Like these two guys with emo fringes swept across their face on opposite sides. It was such a part of their branding and like image that I suppose maybe it was such a huge deal for them both to change how they style their hair, which sounds so stupid like when you think about it like that. But when I suppose a lot of their image rode on what their hair looked like, it's just
yeah,
crazy to think about.
yeah, no, every time there was something, like I remember even when Phil like stopped dyeing his hair and we could see bits of his brown hair in his like when his roots grew
Hmm.
out, like that was a very big deal. But Dan especially because he made such a whole thing about it. He was like, no, I straighten my hair every single day.
Yeah,
Then kind of be like, no, I'm gonna start leaving my natural hair. I'm gonna wear I think that was around the same time he also like started wearing ripped jeans.
yes,
It's a very, very iconic mirror selfie that he posted where he was
yeah.
like, I think it was like
It was,
Australia
yeah,
or
it was Australia. Yeah,
that. Yeah, so like when he posted that picture of himself with the ripped jeans and the natural hair, I think that was like him welcoming a new phase. And he always does this.
yeah.
Like he lives in eras
He does.
of
He
his life.
loves doing that. Dan really said, "Embrace the curls and have the courage to exist.
Have the courage to exist.
Have the courage to wear jeans with ripped knees."
Have the courage to add I have no response to that, but like you can yeah. You can cut that.
And then a lot of the other comments that I saw were also about sort of like, "Oh, Dan is so innocent in this video, and Phil is like swearing so much. He's like so
Mm.
like X-rated. This is an X-rated version of Phil, and what a surprise that Dan is the innocent one." Which I find just so weird because before like Phil met Dan, Phil was very like sort of, I'm gonna say saucy, but I don't mean like actually saucy. I mean there's just like a saucy vibe to what his videos were and how he was like acting online and acting on Twitter. There was a saucy vibe.
Yeah, no, he made like in this video he said penis so many times.
Oh,
He
so
started
many.
that was the first thing he said in the video. He's like penis, 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 Dan. What's your favorite fruit? And Phil's too. Like I can recite that first of all. Like, I'm surprised I can do that. But he says fuck. There's so many sexual jokes. Like the and even the questions that he picked to ask Dan like were like that. Like, would you eat mush Jaffa cakes off your
Jaffa cakes.
Jaffa Jaffa cakes? That was a question, and then the Evangeline Lily question.
Yeah.
In my head, he's picking these questions to ask Dan to
Oh,
like catch them.
absolutely, yeah.
So, um, Yeah, like yeah, I agree. So like Phil's whole thing in the early days of his YouTube, he
Saucy.
was still, yeah, he was very saucy. I don't think he swore because he's talked about it. He's like, no, my grandma watches these videos.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, was your grandma watching these videos though?
And then it's then such an interesting shift that he sort of his whole image now sort of become this like wholesome, innocent, sweet cinnamon roll, amazing Phil. And that
Yeah, like he's
Dan is like the saucy one. And
yeah.
I don't know where that crossover happened and whether it was a conscious decision for like that to happen or if it just something that happened and occurred naturally. But it's just so weird that obviously people picked up on the fact that, oh wow, it's weird that Dan is so sort of innocent in this video, but Phil's the one making all these sort of innuendos and like wild jokes.
On purpose as well, like
Yeah,
because recently it's been like he's very wholesome on purpose, but he accidentally says a lot of weird shit.
yeah.
Like
I feel like he holds back a lot of the weird stuff that he wants to say.
for sure. Like back then, Amazing Phil was weird and he was proud.
Yeah.
And I think we should go back to that. Phil, if you're listening, I would like 2010 Phil videos back.
I think there are lots of people who would also want some 2010 Phil videos to come back.
I just want him to make his weird, like short filmy type of videos.
They would be
Wow.
so good. Let his creative juices flow.
Mm-hmm. Please, Phil. Thank you.
And again, we've come full circle to sort of the
um,
first
yeah,
comments that I said about the Amazing Dan is like the sexier, younger version of Pinoff.
you were literally right. Yeah,
Like,
because
I know Pinoff is weird, but like maybe Pinoff is like your kooky grandma who like bakes cookies or something. But then Amazing Dan is like the wild, crazy grandma that goes to Vegas casinos or something like that.
your aunt that travels everywhere.
Yes, that's the one. Your crazy aunt.
You're crazy like wine aunt who brings you gifts and she's just so mysterious, but she's also fun when she's here. Exactly, you're right.
And
We have an
you don't know when she's going to come because obviously we famously there's only two Amazing Dan videos, so you don't know
and
when the crazy aunt is going to turn up.
we have no idea. And also, the other one is either unlisted or he just like privated it off. Like you can't find it unless it's a re-upload. What do you think we should do? Like, should we do that one?
I think we should.
Okay, because that is my favorite Amazing Dan
Yeah,
of
we'll
the
still
two.
do that Amazing Dan. If there is anything obviously controversial that is mentioned in that, it's for a reason that he took it down. We will obviously discuss that when we discuss the
Yeah,
video. But yeah, I think we should do Amazing Dan too.
yes, because it's really good. I watched it and it's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, that
All
is
right.
absolutely the vibe. Pin off, crazy kooky grandma, and Amazing Dan is the crazy wine aunt that goes traveling.
Go traveling and yeah. All right. So was that Amazing Dan?
I think that was Amazing Dan. I think we've discussed Amazing Dan. We've ripped it to shreds, and we will now tuck it nicely up into bed, and it can live peacefully until somebody decides to rewatch it again.
Yes. Okay, so that was Amazing Dan then. Thank you so much for listening. Charlotte, do you want to tell the listeners what video we'll be discussing next?
Next, yes, we will be discussing Pin-Off 2. We're really going heavy on the Amazing Dan pin-off content. Hopefully there's some other content coming up soon, but yes.
Yes, that's what it is. But for now, I think that's what they are filming. Um, but for now, this is the vibe. Yeah, thank you so much for listening
Thank you all
again.
so much for listening. Leave us some nice feedback, some nice comments if you enjoyed this.
And also thank you for listening to the first episode if you have.
Yes, oh my
Um,
god, thank you so much.
and leaving like feedback and giving like us your thoughts. Thank you so much if you've done that. Feel free to like rate our show if you'd like.
Yes,
That'd be so cool. And yeah, you can follow us on our Twitter and Tumblr and everything will be in the description of the episode, so you can follow us there. Yeah.
yeah, thank you all so much for listening. Fizz, do you have any final thoughts you want to say?
Yes, actually, I missed out on one of my notes. one of my little pointers. Uh, in the video, we did lose the game, and now so did you.
Oh
Bye.
no, why would you say that? Everybody just stopped listening immediately.
It's the end of the episode. Bye.
Bye.